Hello everyone, this is rkhan, and today I'm going to do my presentation on POP3 and SMTP, and this is for ISA4220, Professor Green. So my topic of discussion for today's presentation are going to be SMTP and POP3, and then we'll move on to discuss some of the hardening techniques for SMTP as well as POP3. So SMTP basically stands for Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. It is part of the application layer of TCP IP protocol. So whenever, let's say you send a piece of email, your email client interacts with the SMTP server to handle the sending. The SMTP server on your host may have conversation with other SMTP servers to deliver the email. One SMTP server makes a telnet-like connection to TCP port 26. On the other, it then sends command and data receiving numeric responses. This process can be simulated with any telnet client. The client then waits for the server to send a 220 ready for mail message. Upon the receipt of that 220 mail message, the client sends a hello command. The server then responds with the following message: 250 request mail action. After this, the mail transaction will begin with a mail command that gives the sender identification as well as form a field that contains the address to which the error should be reported. So POP3 stands for Post Office Protocol 3, which is the most recent version of a standard protocol for receiving emails. POP3 is a client-server protocol in which email is received and held for you by your internet server. It is specifically designed for downloading emails from your email provider's server to your local machine. So you use POP3 every time you try to access a mailbox on the server or when you try to download any mail. This standard protocol is built into most popular email products such as Outlook Express. POP3 is designed to delete mail on server as soon as the user has downloaded it. However, some implementation allow users or an administrator to specify that mail be saved for some period of time. Uh, we'll talk about some of the advantages here. So internet service providers or website hosting services often set limits on how much mail can be stored on their servers. In those cases, it's the best to turn to POP3. So you can download your mail and wipe it off the server to stay under storage quota. Another advantage is privacy. Privacy is another reason to rely on POP3. In the most Sonden era, many are uncomfortable with keeping personal data like email or on a third-party server. Email sitting on a server you don't control is wide open to access by law enforcement offices with the right set of warrants. Keeping your email on your device and off third-party server means anyone who wants to look at your email has to come to you and not your email provider. So I think that's a very good benefit if you're using POP3. There's a little negative aspect to it, and that is the downside of POP3 uh, is that in a multiple device world, is that you will have to take some precautions and think hard about how to access email on a mobile device. Uh, since the solo copy of your email is now on your PC, you will have a solid backup plan to make sure that you don't lose your messages to a failed hard drive. If you are using major webmail service like Gmail, the easiest thing to do is just use Google's Gmail app for Android or ISO. Uh, Ditto for Outlook.com and Yahoo Mail. Also remember that if you leave your mail client running on your PC while you're out, all mail messages could disappear from your phone as your desktop grabs new batches of emails. unless you manually configured your email to continue to store messages on the server for a certain amount of time after you downloaded them. That way you can avoid that mistake. Hey, so here we'll discuss some of the hardening techniques for SMTP. Uh, the first one is configure mail relay option carefully to avoid being an open relay. You can specify which domain or IP address your mail server will relay mail for. This means it specifies to whom your SMTP protocol should forward mail to. Uh, a tiny misconfiguration of this option can really harm your server due to spammers using your mail server, resulting in being, for example, blacklisted. The next one is set up SMTP authentication to control user access. Users of your server must obtain permissions to send mail by first giving a username and password. This helps prevent open relay and abuse of your server. So if this is done the right way, only those with known accounts can use the server to send mail. This is a highly recommended step when your mail server has a routed IP address. The next one is maintain local IP blacklist to block spammers. It is a very important practice that you must do. Having a local IP blacklist on your email server is important for countering specific spammers who only seem to target you. Maintenance of the list can take up resource and time. It can be very painful sometimes, but it brings and adds so much value that you really can, it just adds up, Uh, a speedy and reliable way of stopping unwanted internet connection from bothering your messaging server. This is a kind of role that it plays. So here we'll discuss some of the hardening techniques for POP3. The first one is configuring TLS and SSL. Configuring TLS and SSL is extremely important. TLS and SSL are cryptographic protocols that provide security for communication over the internet. It is strongly recommended that you use TLS and SSL to help secure communication between your POP3 or IMAP4 clients and the Exchange Server 2010 client access server. If you are not using SSL TLS, then the entire conversation, including the message and credentials, will all be in plain text, which is not something that you want. The next one is mail relay configuration. Avoid being an open relay for spammers by specifying which domain IP address your mail server will relay mail for. So this is something you have to keep in mind moving forward when you're trying to secure POP3. So this is it for today's presentation, and I hope you gained some information, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening.